My wife said she wouldn't be long at the party, but she never came home. At 3 a.m., I found her iPad with messages that shattered everything. Hotel rooms, lies about work parties, and an affair with Dr. Marcus Chen. He thought sleeping with a medical supplier's wife was risk-free. Big mistake. My name is David Rodriguez. I'm 45 years old, and I've been running a medical equipment distribution company for the past 12 years. Built it from nothing into a solid business that supplies hospitals across 3 states. 15 years of marriage to Lee, 2 teenage kids, Michael, 16, and Sarah, 14. From the outside, we look like the American dream. Nice house in the suburbs, kids in good schools, vacation every summer. I worked my butt off to give them everything they wanted. That Friday evening started like any other. I was reviewing purchase orders at the kitchen table when Lee came downstairs wearing that black dress I'd bought her for our anniversary. She looked stunning, but something felt off about the way she was acting. Too cheerful, too eager. I'm heading to Jennifer's birthday party, Lee announced, checking her reflection in the hallway mirror. Won't be long. Just a couple drinks with the girls. You know how these things go. I glanced up from my paperwork. Which Jennifer? From your yoga class? No, from work, she replied quickly, not meeting my eyes. The new girl in accounting. Sweet thing, just turned 30. I nodded, already turning back to my files. Drive safe. Don't wait up for me if you're tired when you get back. She kissed my forehead, her perfume stronger than usual. Love you, babe. Kids are upstairs doing homework. The front door closed with a soft click, and I heard her car pull out of the driveway. I remember thinking she seemed unusually excited about a work party, but I pushed the thought away. Lee had been working extra hours lately, claiming her boss was breathing down everyone's necks about quarterly reports. I figured she deserved to blow off some steam. I spent the next few hours going through inventory reports and checking on the kids. Michael was playing video games instead of studying, and Sarah was actually doing her algebra homework. Normal Friday night stuff. Around 10:30, I started wondering when Lee would be home, but I didn't worry. She was a grown woman who could take care of herself. By midnight, I was getting concerned. By 1 a.m., I was pacing the living room, checking my phone every few minutes. No texts, no calls. This wasn't like her at all. I kept telling myself there had to be a reasonable explanation. Maybe the party ran longer than expected, or someone had too much to drink, and Lee was being the responsible friend, making sure everyone got home safely. That's the kind of person she was, always looking out for others. At least, that's what I kept telling myself as I paced around our living room like a caged animal. Won't be long, she had said. Those words kept echoing in my head as the hours dragged on. I trusted her completely, never questioned where she went or who she was with. In 15 years of marriage, Lee had never given me a reason to doubt her. She was dependable, honest, the rock of our family. But here I was at 2 in the morning, staring at my phone like it might suddenly come to life with an explanation. I tried calling her again, straight to voicemail. The generic message she'd never bothered to personalize. You've reached Lee Rodriguez. Please leave a message. Hearing her voice made my stomach twist with worry. Where the hell was she? I walked upstairs to check on the kids. Michael's door was closed, soft snoring coming from inside. Sarah's room was dark, her breathing steady and peaceful. They had no idea their mother was missing. For a moment, I envied their innocence. Tomorrow was Saturday. They'd probably sleep until noon and expect pancakes for breakfast, completely oblivious to the panic eating away at my insides. Back downstairs, I found myself doing something I'd never done before, going through Lee's things. Her home office was immaculate as always, bills organized in neat folders, her laptop closed on the desk. I felt like a criminal opening it, but desperation was taking over logic. The password screen appeared, and I realized I had no idea what she used. We'd never hidden anything from each other before. I tried our anniversary date, her birthday, the kids' names. Nothing worked. This small discovery hit me harder than it should have. When had my wife started password protecting things from me? When had we become strangers living in the same house? My phone buzzed with a text message. My heart jumped, thinking it was finally Lee, but it was just my business partner Carlos checking about Monday's delivery schedule to Presbyterian Hospital. I typed back quickly, trying to sound normal, but my hand was shaking. 3 a.m. came and went. I made coffee, knowing I wouldn't sleep anyway. The house felt different somehow, like the walls were holding secrets I couldn't access. Every car that passed on our street made me rush to the window, hoping to see her headlights pulling into the driveway. That's when I noticed her iPad on the kitchen counter, plugged into the charger where she always left it. Unlike her laptop, this didn't require a password. My finger hovered over the screen for what felt like an eternity before I finally opened it. The iPad unlocked immediately, and I found myself staring at Lee's home screen. Social media apps, shopping sites, nothing unusual at first glance. But then I noticed her text messages had a red notification badge showing dozens of unread messages. My wife was obsessive about clearing notifications. Seeing that number made my blood run cold. I opened her messages and immediately saw something that made my stomach drop. Multiple conversations with someone named Dr. Marcus. The preview text I could see made my hands shake. Can't wait to see you tonight. And, your husband doesn't suspect anything, does he? Dr. Marcus. The name hit me like a freight train. Marcus Chen, the new radiologist at Memorial Hospital. I'd met him at our company's annual medical conference 3 months ago. Young, good-looking, recently divorced. Lee had been unusually interested in our conversation that night, asking lots of questions about his work, his background. I thought she was just being polite. I scrolled through their messages, each one worse than the last. Plans to meet at hotels. Discussions about my work schedule. Photos I couldn't bring myself to open. The timeline made everything clear. This had been going on for at least 2 months. 2 months of lies, 2 months of betrayal, while I worked 60-hour weeks to provide for our family. The most recent message was from tonight. Party was perfect cover story. Room 237 at the Marriott downtown. Can't wait to unwrap my early Christmas present. I had to grip the counter to keep from falling over. There was no Jennifer from accounting. No birthday party. Lee was at a hotel room with another man right now, probably doing things I couldn't even think about without wanting to punch a hole through the wall. My phone rang, cutting through the silence like a gunshot. Lee's name appeared on the screen. For a moment, I just stared at it, wondering if I should answer or let it go to voicemail. Finally, I swiped to accept. David. Lee's voice sounded different, breathless. Hey, sorry I didn't call earlier. The party ran really late. I could hear her lying through her teeth, but I kept my voice steady. Where are you now? Just leaving Jennifer's place. I'll be home in 20 minutes. Another lie. The Marriott was at least 30 minutes from our house. Drive safe, I managed to say, then hung up before she could respond. 20 minutes. I had 20 minutes to decide what to do with this information. 20 minutes to figure out how to confront the woman who'd been systematically destroying our marriage while I trusted her completely. I looked around our kitchen, family photos on the refrigerator, school schedules, soccer practice reminders. Everything that represented our life together suddenly felt like a stage set for an elaborate lie. Lee walked through the front door at exactly 3:40 a.m., trying to move quietly in the dark hallway. I was sitting in my recliner in the living room, lights off, her iPad in my lap like evidence in a criminal trial. She hadn't seen me yet, tiptoeing toward the stairs like a teenager, sneaking past her parents. How was Jennifer's party? I asked, my voice cutting through the silence. Lee jumped, spinning around with her hand pressed to her chest. David, you scared me. Why are you sitting in the dark? I reached over and turned on the lamp, studying her face in the sudden brightness. Her makeup was smudged, her hair looked like she'd been running her fingers through it, and that black dress was wrinkled in ways that told a story I didn't want to hear. Couldn't sleep, I said, holding up her iPad. Funny thing about technology these days. Messages don't disappear just because you think you're being careful. The color drained from her face as she realized what I was holding. For a moment, she looked like she might try to deny everything, but then her expression hardened into something I'd never seen before. Cold calculation. How long have you been snooping through my private messages? Lee demanded, crossing her arms defensively. How long have you been sleeping with Dr. Marcus Chen? I shot back, standing up from the chair. 2 months. 3. Help me understand the timeline here. She didn't even try to deny it. Instead, she rolled her eyes like I was being unreasonable. It's not what you think, David. Marcus and I have a connection you couldn't possibly understand. A connection. I repeated her words slowly, feeling 15 years of trust dissolve between us. Is that what we're calling adultery now? Don't be so dramatic, Lee snapped. You've been emotionally absent for years. Working all the time, coming home exhausted, falling asleep in front of the TV. When was the last time we had a real conversation about anything other than bills or the kids' schedules? I stared at her in disbelief. So, your solution was to have an affair with one of my business contacts? Someone I have to work with professionally. Marcus understands me, she continued, her voice taking on a dreamy quality that made me sick. He listens when I talk. He makes me feel alive again, like a woman instead of just a mother and housekeeper. You are a mother, I said, my voice rising. Michael and Sarah are upstairs sleeping, trusting that their parents love each other. What happens to them when this falls apart? For the first time, something flickered across her face, maybe guilt, maybe regret. But it was gone as quickly as it appeared. The kids will be fine, she said dismissively. They're old enough to understand that people grow apart sometimes. Grow apart. I felt anger building in my chest like steam in a pressure cooker. We didn't grow apart, Lee. You made a choice to betray our family. She shook her head like I was missing something obvious. I made a choice to be happy. You should try it sometime. The next morning hit me like a freight train. I'd barely slept 2 hours when my phone started ringing with weekend emergency calls. Apparently, the MRI machine at St. Mary's Hospital had malfunctioned, and they needed replacement parts immediately. Under normal circumstances, I would have handled this efficiently, professionally. But nothing about this situation was normal anymore. As I drove to the hospital warehouse, my mind kept racing between business responsibilities and personal destruction. Dr. Marcus Chen worked at Memorial Hospital, not St. Mary's, but the medical community in our city was tight-knit. Word traveled fast, and if Lee's affair became public knowledge, it would destroy more than just my marriage. I called my business partner Carlos from the parking lot before going inside. We need to talk, I told him. Something's come up that could affect our contracts. What kind of something? Carlos asked, immediately concerned. Our company had built its reputation on reliability and discretion. The personal kind that becomes professional real fast, I said. I'll fill you in Monday, but we might need to reassess our relationship with Memorial Hospital. The silence on the other end told me Carlos understood this was serious. We'd built this business together over 12 years, and he knew I didn't make dramatic statements lightly. After handling the St. Mary's emergency, I drove home to find Lee making breakfast like nothing had happened. Michael and Sarah were at the kitchen table, arguing about weekend plans. The normalcy of the scene made everything surreal. My kids eating pancakes while their mother's affair threatened to tear apart everything I'd worked to build. Dad, can I go to Tyler's house today? Michael asked without looking up from his phone. Sure, I said automatically, then caught Lee's eye across the kitchen. She was watching me carefully, probably wondering if I'd say something to the kids. Sarah, you've got soccer practice at 11, Lee said, her voice artificially cheerful. I can drop you off on my way to run errands. Errands? I wondered if that was code for meeting Marcus again. The thought made my jaw clench, but I kept my expression neutral for the kids' sake. After breakfast, when Michael had left for his friend's house and Sarah was getting ready for soccer, I cornered Lee in our bedroom. We need to discuss how this affects the business, I said quietly. Marcus works with 3 of our biggest hospital accounts. If this gets out, it won't just destroy our marriage. It'll destroy everything I've built. Lee's face hardened. So this is about money now? About your precious business reputation? This is about our children's future, I shot back. Their college funds, their security, everything depends on the company I built. Your affair isn't just personal anymore. It's professional suicide. For the first time since last night, Lee looked genuinely worried. You're being melodramatic, Lee said, but I could hear the uncertainty in her voice. Nobody has to know about Marcus and me. We can work this out privately. I stared at her in disbelief. Work this out? You've been lying to me for months, sleeping with someone I have to do business with, and you think we could just work this out? People have problems in marriages all the time, Lee replied, sitting on the edge of our bed. We can go to counseling, figure out where things went wrong. Where things went wrong. I felt my voice rising despite my efforts to stay calm. Things went wrong when you decided to cheat instead of talking to me about whatever problems you thought we had. Lee stood up abruptly, her defensive walls going back up. Don't act like you're completely innocent here, David. You've been married to your work for years. When was the last time you took me out to dinner? When was the last time you asked about my dreams, my feelings? I've been working to provide for this family, I said, my patience finally snapping. Every contract I land, every client I keep happy, it's all for you and the kids. I thought that meant something. Money isn't everything, Lee said coldly. Marcus makes me feel like a woman again, not just a wife who manages schedules and cooks dinner. The mention of his name sent rage shooting through my veins. Marcus is using you, Lee. He's recently divorced, looking for easy company, and you're convenient. You think you're special to him. You don't know anything about our relationship. Lee snapped back. He understands me in ways you never have. Our relationship? I repeated. You mean your affair? Let's call it what it is. Sarah's voice echoed from downstairs. Mom, I'm ready for soccer practice. The interruption forced us both to pause, remembering that our children were still living in this house, still depending on us to act like responsible adults. We'll finish this later, Lee said, grabbing her keys and heading for the door. No, I said firmly, blocking her path. We'll finish this now. I want to know exactly how long this has been going on, and I want to know what you plan to do about it. Lee's eyes flashed with anger. What I plan to do? I plan to live my life instead of just existing in it. Maybe you should try the same thing. Mom, Sarah called again from downstairs. Lee pushed past me toward the bedroom door. I'm taking Sarah to soccer. When I get back, maybe you'll have calmed down enough to have a rational conversation. Rational? I called after her. There's nothing rational about destroying a 15-year marriage for some midlife crisis fantasy. I heard her heels clicking down the stairs, then the front door closing. A few minutes later, her car pulled out of the driveway. Taking our daughter to soccer practice like this was just another normal Saturday morning. But nothing would ever be normal again. By Monday morning, I made my decision. Instead of wallowing in self-pity or begging Lee to end her affair, I was going to fight back using every advantage I'd built over 15 years of business success. If she wanted to play games with my professional reputation, I'd show her exactly what those games could cost. My first call was to Memorial Hospital's chief administrator, Patricia Wells. Patricia and I had worked together for over a decade, and she valued the reliable service my company provided. More importantly, she was old-school conservative when it came to professional ethics. Patricia, I need to discuss a delicate situation that could affect our business relationship, I said during our scheduled meeting. It involves Dr. Marcus Chen and some personal complications that might create conflicts of interest. Patricia's expression grew serious immediately. Memorial Hospital had strict policies about employee conduct, especially after a scandal involving inappropriate relationships had cost them their previous chief of radiology. What kind of complications? She asked. I chose my words carefully. Dr. Chen has become personally involved with my wife. Given that my company supplies critical equipment to departments where he has influence, I felt obligated to disclose this potential conflict. I appreciate your transparency, David, Patricia said, making notes on her legal pad. We'll need to review Dr. Chen's procurement recommendations and ensure proper oversight moving forward. It wasn't a direct attack on Marcus, but it was enough to put him under scrutiny. In the medical field, reputation was everything, and being flagged for ethics concerns could derail a career permanently. My next stop was the country club where Lee and I had been members for 8 years. I found Marcus Chen having lunch on the terrace, looking relaxed and confident. He didn't see me coming until I was standing directly beside his table. Dr. Chen, I said pleasantly, mind if I join you? Marcus nearly choked on his sandwich when he looked up and saw me. David, sure. Have a seat. I pulled out the chair across from him and sat down slowly, maintaining eye contact the entire time. Beautiful day, isn't it? Perfect weather for making important decisions. Look, David, if this is about, Marcus started, but I held up my hand to stop him. This is about respect, I said calmly. Respect for families, for professional relationships, for the commitments people make to each other. You seem to have forgotten what those words mean. Marcus shifted uncomfortably in his chair. It's complicated. No, it's really not, I replied. You're sleeping with another man's wife. A man who does business with your hospital. That's not complicated. That's just stupid. Lee and I care about each other, Marcus said defensively. I leaned forward slightly. Lee is going through a midlife crisis, and you're convenient. But here's what's not convenient. The ethics review that's about to land on your desk at Memorial Hospital. The color drained from Marcus's face. You can't prove anything inappropriate happened professionally. I don't have to prove anything. I said with a smile. I just have to raise questions about your judgment and professional conduct. In medicine, that's usually enough. Chen stared at me across the country club table, probably calculating how much damage I could actually do to his career. The answer was plenty, and we both knew it. What do you want? He asked quietly. I want you to understand that actions have consequences, I said, signaling the waitress for coffee. You're not just having an affair with some random woman. You're messing with a family, with children, with a business relationship that affects people's livelihoods. Lee is unhappy in her marriage, Marcus said, trying to justify his actions. She deserves better than being ignored and taken for granted. I laughed, but there was no humor in it. You think you know my wife after a few months of hotel meetings? I've been married to her for 15 years. I know exactly who she is and what she's capable of. She says you never pay attention to her anymore. Marcus continued, apparently thinking he was defending her honor. She also told you I wouldn't find out about your affair. I replied. How's that working out for her? The waitress brought my coffee, and I took a slow sip while Marcus squirmed in his chair. He was younger than me, probably thought he was smarter, but he'd made a fatal error in judgment by getting involved with Lee without understanding the bigger picture. Here's what's going to happen, I said finally. You're going to end this affair immediately. You're going to have no further contact with my wife outside of any unavoidable professional interactions. And you're going to hope that the ethics review at Memorial Hospital doesn't destroy your career. And if I refuse? Marcus asked, trying to sound defiant. I set down my coffee cup and leaned back in my chair. Then I'll make sure every hospital administrator in this city knows exactly what kind of man they're dealing with. Medical equipment suppliers talk to each other, Dr. Chen. We share information about problem clients, unreliable professionals, people who create complications. Marcus's face went pale as he realized the scope of what I was threatening. You're talking about ruining my career over a personal matter. You made it a professional matter when you started sleeping with the wife of a major hospital supplier, I said calmly. You want to play in the adult world? These are adult consequences. I stood up from the table and pulled out a $20 bill for my coffee. You have until the end of the week to make your decision. Choose wisely. As I walked away, I heard Marcus call after me. David, wait. We should talk about this reasonably. I turned back one more time. The time for reasonable discussion ended when you decided to destroy my family. Now you get to deal with the fallout. Driving home from the country club, I felt something I hadn't experienced since discovering Lee's affair control. For months, maybe years, I'd been reacting to situations instead of creating them. I'd been the reliable husband, the steady provider, the man who solved problems quietly and efficiently. But this situation required a different approach. If Lee wanted excitement and drama in her life, I'd give her more than she bargained for. If Marcus thought he could play games with my family without consequences, he was about to learn otherwise. The phone rang as I pulled into my driveway. It was Lee, and her voice sounded panicked. David, we need to talk. Something's happened. Lee was waiting for me in the living room when I got home, her face a mixture of anger and panic. She'd changed clothes since our morning confrontation, now wearing a conservative business suit like she was preparing for a job interview. Or funeral. What did you do to Marcus? She demanded before I'd even closed the front door. I had a conversation with him, I said calmly, hanging my keys on the hook by the door. Man to man. The kind of conversation you should have encouraged months ago. He called me crying, Lee said, her voice rising. He said you threatened to destroy his career, that there's some kind of investigation at the hospital. There is, I confirmed, walking past her toward the kitchen. Patricia Wells takes ethics violations very seriously. Apparently. So does the hospital board. Lee followed me, her heels clicking angrily on the hardwood floor. You can't do this, David. You can't ruin someone's life because your feelings are hurt. I turned to face her, feeling calmer than I had in days. My feelings? Lee, this stopped being about feelings the moment you decided to have an affair with someone I do business with. You made this professional. That's not fair, she protested. Fair. I laughed, but there was no humor in it. Was it fair when you lied to our children about where you were going? Was it fair when you used my business relationships to meet your lover? Was it fair when you put our family's financial security at risk for some midlife crisis fantasy? For the first time since this whole nightmare began, Lee looked truly frightened. What are you saying? I'm saying you have a choice to make, I told her firmly. You can end this affair, commit to rebuilding our marriage, and hope Marcus's career survives the scrutiny. Or you can continue down this path and watch everything we've built together collapse. You're giving me an ultimatum? She asked incredulously. I'm giving you reality, I corrected. The divorce papers are already drafted. Carlos and I have discussed restructuring the business to protect it from any personal complications. The kids' college funds have been moved to accounts in my name only. Lee's face went white. You've been planning this. I've been protecting our family's interests, I said. Something you forgot to do when you started sleeping around. She was quiet for a long moment, probably realizing for the first time that I wasn't the pushover husband she'd taken for granted. This wasn't going to be some dramatic reconciliation where she apologized and we pretended nothing happened. What about the kids? She asked quietly. Michael and Sarah will always be my priority, I said, which is why I'm not going to let your poor decisions destroy their future. They deserve better than parents who lie to each other and put their own selfish desires ahead of family stability. So that's it? Lee asked. 15 years of marriage, and you're just giving up? I'm not giving up, I said firmly. You gave up months ago when you chose Marcus Chen over our family. I'm just refusing to pretend otherwise anymore. 6 months later, I was sitting in my new downtown office, reviewing contracts for 3 additional hospital systems that had approached us after Memorial Hospital's glowing recommendation. The irony wasn't lost on me. Lee's affair had actually strengthened my business relationships by forcing me to be more transparent and professional than ever before. Marcus Chen had transferred to a hospital in another state after the ethics investigation concluded. No formal charges were filed, but his reputation in our medical community was permanently damaged. Sometimes the threat of consequences was more effective than the consequences themselves. The divorce had been finalized 2 months ago. Lee kept the house, I kept the business, and we shared custody of Michael and Sarah. The kids had adjusted better than I'd expected, probably because they were old enough to understand that some problems couldn't be fixed with counseling and good intentions. Dad, are you ready? Sarah asked, appearing in my office doorway wearing her soccer uniform. I looked at my watch and realized I'd been so focused on reviewing contracts that I'd nearly missed her game. Absolutely. Let me grab my jacket. This was my new reality, actually being present for my children instead of just financially providing for them. The divorce had forced me to reorganize my priorities, and surprisingly, the business was running more efficiently than ever. Is Mom coming to the game? Sarah asked as we walked to my car. I don't know, sweetheart, I said honestly. But I'll be there, and that's what matters. Lee and I maintained a cordial relationship for the kids' sake, but we both understood that our marriage had been broken long before her affair with Marcus. Maybe I had been too focused on work, too comfortable with our routine. But cheating wasn't the solution to those problems. Communication was. I'd started dating again recently. Nothing serious, just reminding myself that there was life beyond work and parental responsibilities. At 45, I wasn't looking for drama or passionate affairs. I wanted partnership, honesty, mutual respect, the things that actually sustained a relationship over time. During Sarah's soccer game, I found myself thinking about the past year and how much everything had changed. The business was stronger, my relationship with the kids was deeper, and I'd learned that being alone was better than being with someone who didn't value what we'd built together. Great game, kiddo, I told Sarah afterward, wrapping her in a hug. Thanks for coming, Dad, she said. It means a lot. As we drove home, I realized that losing Lee had been painful, but it wasn't the end of my story. If anything, it was the beginning of a new chapter where I control the narrative instead of just reacting to someone else's choices. At 45, I was financially secure, professionally respected, and personally free to build relationships based on trust and mutual respect. Lee could keep her exciting affairs and midlife crisis adventures. I'd choose substance over drama every time. The future looked pretty good from where I was sitting.